And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we're looking like we are nice and live. Everyone's working. How's your audio on your end, Hailey? Can you hear me nicely?
I can.
Sensational. Amazing. Well, I look forward to it and I hope I've got it right. The moon, us, ladies and gentlemen, another trans episode today. I'll get Rowe straight out of Chicago, total rock star in the world of marketing and sales coaching, provider of LinkedIn. I've got down here, you were named one of the top 25 coaches in Chicago, and you have one of the top 6 business podcasts for coaches in the health space. That's really, really exciting. We'd love to talk to you about that kind of thing today. You got a wealth of experience in business development, marketing, and sales. You had a really interesting start in a more performance based career. And generally, Hailey, I'm really, really excited to talk to you today. So thank you so much for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it's been quite a journey.
To get to this podcast or
No,
or
just
your
in
life.
general, when you're recapping it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Really, uh, into a little, we do a little dive, guess more about you, and some really interesting things popped up in your chat. You mentioned your journey. Let's talk because you started off in acting. I'm very, very impressed by it that people can do that so confidently and for a living. What sort of acting and singing did you start off doing?
Yeah, so growing up, I was always like in theater and I didn't play sports and I was in choir. And so I started writing my own songs and writing pop music in middle school, actually. And then I sang in bands. And then in college, I kind of went on a complete hiatus. I just studied entrepreneurship and got my bachelor's degree. And then singing was more like a, you know, hobby of mine. And so I ended up, but actually, while I was building my business, I was singing in a wedding band every weekend. And that was a total blast. And so that's kind of my, I sing a lot of cover songs and that kind of thing. So
I love the
I
wedding.
enjoyed
Is a my musicians that the wedding gig is like always the same sort of thing, but it's decent money. It can be a lot of fun sometimes a bit of a disaster, but it's a job you can rely on. You're always happy to have a wedding gig.
Oh yeah, up until the pandemic, then it all totally went on pause. But actually, I was kind of glad that happened because I realized how tired I was, and I realized I just wanted to sub for the wedding band, and so I ended up shifting to that because I do run a business, and it was a lot of weekends, a lot of weekend time driving and being up late and all of that. So, but now it fits perfectly. I do it every once in a while, and I love it.
That's great. That's really, really cool. I was similar in the hospitality world when I was starting my business. I was always working in a kitchen in some way or form. I was a chef for many years, and then I got into when I was running businesses, I would have less committal jobs like a barista or like a waiter. And I always of it. The same thing happened for me. Pandemic hit right around the time we had our kids, and I just couldn't really work in the restaurants anymore. And it forced me to go full time into business. Realize you don't have to be working 7 days a week to make this stuff happen. And so I'm glad you had that realization. Congratulations. And so that means you're about 3 years into full time coaching, yeah?
Yeah, so well, I got my first coaching cert back in 2010, and I was
Hmm.
actually 16, and I was very eager. And then
Yeah, you
I
were.
didn't end up really doing anything with it for a while. I mean, little bits and things here and there, but I went to school, got my bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship. Then I worked in business development and marketing startups. So I loved that. And a lot of the businesses I was working for were wellness based or like personal development based companies. So it was kind of combining my two passions.
Hmm.
And then in 2017, I would say that's when I really started to focus full force on the business. Because one of the startups that I worked for, and on their lunch team, facing delays with getting their equipment approved and all this stuff. And so the entire team was let go unexpectedly. And that's when I was like, well, I was going to do this eventually. And I think this is my calling to do it now. And so I did. And so I would say 2020 was like the year where I was like, okay, this is serious. This is my full-time job now. Like, this is going to be the thing. I know I can keep producing this. Leading up to that point, those 3 years, like late 2017 through 2020, was definitely my like build up years, and just like learning so much and failing so much, and all the, highs and lows, and a lot of mentorship, a lot of investing in my brain and learning about marketing and practicing. And even though I had a business background, like I had worked for companies, it's always different when it's yourself and when it's your baby. So definitely went through that for a little while.
It's interesting that so many coaches out there, namely Tony Robbins being one of them, will preach kind of burning the boats, getting back again, or no the kind of vibe. But you and myself, it seems we both built our businesses and were able to invest in mentor because we had those jobs that kept us going. Now, I know that the burn the boats thing, whenever I've tried to do that, it's been an absolute disaster, because you're starting to make decisions emotionally and from a sort of desperate place. And I know that I read a little article, that you started selling $50 questions. Let's when that was, because I think a lot of people are in that space of, and can help people tough.
Yeah.
For something that they've got coaching. The case when you're also coach 12 years ago, that's when you were selling those sessions, you were quite desperate. Give us give us the backstory of where you were in your business at that point, and how you then started to make the shift from really, really just scrambling for every sale to becoming more comfortable asking for money.
Yeah, so I think you bring up a really good point there, where when it's called asking for money, nobody ever wants to do that. So we have to stop seeing sales as asking for money. So the thing that happened for me when I was first starting out was I was really undercharging, and I was seeing it as dollars per hour. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a single session. It's gonna be $50. I want it to be easy. And what you realize, though, is that it's actually still not easy, because you're attracting people who already are like nickel and diming, right? And so there was a couple things I didn't realize at that time. One was, I'm not just selling dollars per hour. I'm selling, and nowadays I've evolved my coaching, but I'm selling a transformation. I'm selling a framework. I'm selling a point A to point B and helping the client get there. I'm saving them time that, with my templates and with the things that I've developed that save them a bunch of time. There's so much more to it than just, we're going to do a session, it's going to be $50. But when you sell it like, we're going to do a session and it's $50, you are lumped in as a commodity. And then, of course, people are going to price shop, because that's just like you're selling a commodity, which is sessions. But when you have your own framework, and when you have your own point A to point B, and when you have your own success stories with that, and you are like bold in that, and it's a program, it's much easier to sell, because you're selling a solution to something. And then suddenly also, when you have confidence in that, you stop seeing it as, I'm asking for money and I'm giving a transformation and partnering with this person to, leave them way better off than they started, with new skills, with new outcomes, etc. So that was something that had to shift for me. And I think a lot of coaches feel like people don't see the value in what they do, because of the way they're communicating it isn't, it's more about the features as opposed to the benefits. And so a lot of times they're attracting people who don't really see or get the value of what they do.
Yeah, well, a lot of people still in 2023 are not very familiar with the coaching space. Maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, people started to say, okay, I'll started really under coaches, and coaching is much more true. Really interesting. You said you commodify you hour. It's a therapist for a coach back. I will book a session. Better for I'm not going to go into a package. Try and get as much as I can out of the session. Then I just spent $80 in a session. I'm going to probably go back. But the real comes in, continue with that person and exercise. So, I mean, do you, for a coach who's currently charging ad hoc one-off sessions to then move into a more value-based model like you have?
Yeah. So your question was, can you repeat the question though? Because it was a little fuzzy.
I'm not I phrased it, but basically, there's going to be a lot of coaches out there listening who start off doing these one-off hourly rate sessions. You made the shift in mindset to go from I'm giving value here, I am not a commodity, but tangibly, what steps can they take to start maybe selling a longer package or a program, more of a value-based system?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So, first of all, I want to just say I don't think every single coach should start off with a program because a lot of times you do want to start with something where you can get some testimonials quickly. You can just have some practice. Like a lot of my clients don't feel ready to have their programs yet because they need more experience, so they want to get practice. So if that's you, I think you could start with either a test program. So thinking about what your program's actually going to be and doing like a test version of it that's not free, but it's not what you're eventually going to charge for it. And I could talk about that in a second. But the other option would be maybe you do a package of 3 sessions or something for a package deal and you kind of sell it like that because you're still figuring out your message and you want to hear what people sign up for, like what's their reasoning, so you understand what their needs are. And then you learn from that what your marketing message should be because you're finding why people came in the first place. So I don't think it's bad necessarily to sell single sessions and just kind of meet the market, even though it's a commodity and even though you are going to get price shoppers and even though they might not be the best ideal clients for the future of your life. But if you want to like hit the ground running and you think you feel confident in that, because that's the thing. If you don't feel confident in selling a program right off the bat and you're not sold, it's not going to sell. So if you need to start with a baby step, do the baby step, right? So some of my clients do that. For me, when I started my group program or my first official like program that had like worksheets and everything, I I did a test version. So I definitely had a very cheap, low cost version the first time around. I said I'm going to be building it with you. I was hearing their feedback as I went. I was personalizing it as much as I possibly could. And I really like did that full out. And then I built the confidence to realize and like also back up and see like, wow, okay, this has come together now. I could kind of see a structure here. I could see the most common questions and obstacles that these clients have been having. I can create solves for each of those things that have come up, like either with templates or coaching sessions or how I structure the calls and all that. And so I started to like realize that and then be able to create my framework because it became evident to me of like the general order and structure and all that. So it was a very much like learning as I go and doing a beta or test program. And then one day I didn't have a framework. So I have a framework called Grow Your Business the Fast Way, and it's an acronym. But I didn't develop that probably until like late 2020 or 2021, maybe not even until 2021. So that just came to me randomly in the sauna one day. I was like, how can I explain what I do in a way that's clear and that's like cute and memorable? And it just was like, oh, it's an acronym and it can be fast. And that was it. But do you need that to get things rolling and hit your first 6 figures? No, I didn't even have that for like the first big chunk of my journey. So I think what you need to do, what I had before that was just what are the themes? So think about your coaching, think about the solutions you provide and who you provide it for, and think about what are the top like 3 themes that you want to be known for or problems you help solve. And then under each of those, think about what are the big obstacles and excuses people have either internally externally or just in the world around them, or to the way that you teach. Like maybe you use a lot of like meditation and woo-woo stuff, and you feel like some people will have an objection to the woo-woo stuff. Like think about what could those objections and problems and excuses and things that are keeping them from being at their ideal dream outcome and their ideal dream outcome in each of those pillars. And that will determine what do you need to include in your program. What kind of worksheets do you need? What kind of things do you need to solve? What kind of things do you need to be prepared to be asked about? That kind of thing. Now, for everybody here who's like a traditional coach and you did the ICF thing or whatever, and you're like, no, coaching doesn't have a program. It doesn't have worksheets and all that. That's cool. Like I'm totally into, I understand the value of coaching and asking questions and helping the client find solutions within themselves, but you still want to think about how can you communicate still. Here are examples of problems we can solve in coaching. Here's, a way I explain coaching to people in a way that people get it and they see it as tangible. Because if you just lead with coaching is a way of me asking you questions and helping you find answers within yourself, it's not necessarily as marketable as if you're able to say, yes, we do a coaching process where I'm asking you questions, helping you discover answers with yourself. But the overall goal or the overall example of what people are able to experience with this way we do it are blank, 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 and you're tying it back to the overall big picture. So that's my spiel. I went a little off topic, but I hope that helps.
That's the beauty of long form podcasts. We can go off topic and bring it right back to wherever we need to be. And that's really, really cool. And a lot of things to touch on. One, the concept of the test program, doing smaller packages to get some runs on the board, get some case studies, get some testimonials, hugely powerful. I run a company and to teach people to social media. Same thing. No one charging for that day. So we say go for a few people, get what works, get the feedback, and then move forwards. The second part, where you were saying that you were building your program with your clients and then figuring out your clients needed. This is very, very important to understand. You and I are both pretty, you more than me. Business, be creative, finding customers. What is you find your clients and then you create the service and the program around what they need. And ultimately, that's going to create better results and more success. And that's what you've done with your FAST Way framework. And you mentioned it's an acronym. I'd love to hear your FAST acronym, please.
Yeah, I'll definitely go into that. And one quick thing I want to tell listeners who are worried now, like, oh my gosh, I got to scramble and create a program and create worksheets and stuff. I just want to let you know your program, if you're doing private coaching especially, you can customize your program pitch and proposal per client. So when you have your discovery calls, they're going to tell you what they want and need. And you as a private coach, because you're a private coach, you have the ability to just be like, okay, great, we're going to work on these things and here's how we're going to do that. So don't be afraid to start, and eventually you can have like a main program that you market as one message and one thing, but I just wanted to share that really quick. Okay, so the FAST framework is an acronym, and it stands for some principles that coaches, I think, need in order to be able to turn their business from a hobby to an actual sustainable, profitable business. So it stands for followers, action, sales, time management, and transformation. So there's kind of 2 T's on there. So it's kind of fast, but anyways, followers basically means how are you going to be attracting new leads every week, and what's going to be your chosen method or methods to do that, and then helping you determine a system from turning those followers into interested people booking discovery calls and or clients going through all the way the funnel. So a lot of times my clients like to do local marketing. A lot of times my clients like to do social media marketing. It just depends on the person. It depends on their niche, but we will determine like what that is for you and get that rolling. The action piece is how do you create content that's compelling enough that people want to reach out. They want to sign up for your email list. They want to book a discovery call. So a lot of times the mistakes in this section are like your content, you're posting just to post, or you're posting without a strong call to action, or it's not really clear what you're talking about, or you're marketing long-term results that aren't of interest to your ideal clients. Like you're talking about purpose and stuff, but really urgently right now, what they need is like insert more urgent need. Like they want a promotion, or they want to improve their relationship with their spouse or something like that. Sales is the third part. So that is, how do you convert the client? So how do you lead your discovery calls? What are you selling? So I help a lot of my clients develop their programs and their upsells and their downsells. How do you deal with the common objections in your marketing so that your leads are more pre-qualified and see the value, and you're positioning the value properly? And then the last piece is time management. Is all about, what are the client generating activities to focus on? If you have a certain amount of time each week to work on your business, what's the best use of that time? Getting rid of the shiny object stuff and the distractions. And then the last one would be transformation. So that's two things. One, what's the personal transformation required to be a successful business owner? So a lot of times my clients have to face fears like, I don't want to be on camera, or I see sales as asking for money, or I'm afraid of people will actually sign up. I'm afraid of success. Like there will be little mindset blocks that we have to work through sometimes. And then the other part of transformation is the point A to point B of your program, and having good testimonials and making sure all of that's clear, and making sure you know what makes you stand out, and maybe even having your own framework or system that you use with clients.
Love it. Love it. I love an acronym. I think I love a signature system that stand out aside from other people who help people grow their business. There's plenty of them, but your system sets you apart, which is fantastic. Now, I'm in marketing. We have a digital marketing company for coaches and consultants. So I'd love to talk about the first two steps, followers and action. You mentioned marketing, you mentioned local marketing. Local marketing is something we don't talk about so much now. So I'd love to just touch on that a little bit. When you say local marketing, are you referring to traditional media, kind of like newspaper flyering, that sort of thing?
I'm referring to a couple things, not necessarily news, like digital or like local publications. I'm more referring to like local partnerships, doing corporate speaking or lunch and learns in your community, hosting a workshop, stuff like that, where you're actually getting involved in your community, or you're partnering with a local business. That's mainly what my clients focus on.
I love that. And I think that's good to hear for people, because a few of my clients in that social media marketing program, what they're doing is they're joining local networks, local networking groups, and then just kind of talking. They become the expert in that group of the, you talk to, Samantha, she's the social media queen in the group, that sort of thing. So I think that style of local marketing is really, really cool. And I always see that. I feel like I used to run a cafe and manage a popular local restaurant. I used to know a lot more people in my community than I do now that I run an online business, where I see my friends who work with more local businesses. Every cafe they go into, they're always doing photos with different people in the community. And I think it's such a powerful form of marketing. And you try and do more of that. Social media marketing. You do some work on LinkedIn lead gen. Is that right? Talk to me about LinkedIn, because we don't do much on LinkedIn. We use Facebook and Instagram a bit more, because I feel they're a little faster. A little faster to learn, a little cheaper to get leads and results, but I could be wrong, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on LinkedIn versus other platforms.
Yeah, I'm not against other platforms, but I think actually LinkedIn's easier. I think that it's a low maintenance platform, meaning you don't have to be posting Instagram stories all day on LinkedIn. You don't have to be like really posting all the time and like flashy on LinkedIn. It's a great platform for what it actually is used for, is networking, which is the whole goal of social media in general, is to be social. And I think that LinkedIn's a platform where you can do that, and it's expected, as opposed to like Instagram. it's for entertainment for a lot of people. It's not for like business for everyone. So I love LinkedIn because it's a networking platform. It's low maintenance, and the way that I do it with my clients, and we have I don't know if I shared this with you, but I have a free LinkedIn profitable partnerships and relationships script example. If people want to download it, it's a freebie. So maybe we could put that in the show notes or something, or you can send me or whatever, and I could send it to you. But anywho, what you want to do on LinkedIn is you do not want to just pitch right away. So that's where a lot of people go wrong, and that's why people get a bad what's the word, like they get a bad vibe from LinkedIn, because that's just what they expect. They think they're going to log in and they're going to have a million sales pitches, which you probably will in your inbox because a lot of people are doing it wrong. But what we do is we want to actually ask powerful questions, build relationships, use it for partnerships, use it for forming referral partnerships, and use it with your potential client if they are a niche that is a business niche. So if your niche is like stay-at-home moms, LinkedIn, you can use it to get podcasts, interviews, or speaking things, but you probably won't use it to connect directly with moms. So there's creative ways we can use LinkedIn for you, but for the most part, if your business niche is a type of professional, it's a great platform because we can look that up, and we could do really good targeting with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We do a 2-message relationship building campaign, and we keep it short, we keep it inviting, we keep it permission based, and it can be a great way to either build referral or partnerships, get speaking or visibility opportunities, or connect directly to client.
I love that you said that you kind of brought attention to the fact that LinkedIn is working. I'm surprised I pitched on there. I never really that on Facebook and Instagram. You're competing with, just be there to kind of zone out and look at, con workouts, holidays, nonsense. There's an ad pop, you paid ads, and it might not be what they're there for. People are there to network, so that's great. A great message there. So everyone who's got a LinkedIn account, as you said, we get the messages every day, some long copy and paste, overly enthusiastic. You don't read it back. Would you like me to say I'm fine. I'm going to not even read this message. So how can people start conversation on LinkedIn, ask those powerful questions like you mentioned, and have more of a multi-message framework to generate leads rather than just trying to take someone home before dinner?
Yeah. Well, and there's like a fine line, because you don't want to act creepy, like you're hiding something. So you don't want to approach somebody like, "Hey, what's your favorite color?" Because then it's like, "Wait, why are you asking me this?" And like, "Who are you? And why is this your question?"
Yeah.
So I think there's a fine line between, you do want to be direct and like be clear about why you're even on the platform and why you're connecting with people, but you also don't want to be like kind of freaky and hiding who you are, because I think that's even weirder than a sales pitch, to be quite honest. So
people can smell it, right? They can smell when you're just
like, where are you going with this?
Hey, how's it going today?
Yeah. So I think it's good so first of all, just the connection request message, that's simple. That could be as simple as, always looking to connect with other entrepreneurs, or always looking to connect with other, insert whoever you're connecting with. But then when you actually get in a conversation with them, you might want to ask it something along the lines of like, "Hey, Name, it's great to connect. I noticed that you are in blah, blah, blah. And I aim to post content that's helpful when it comes to," insert your topics. "Is there any types of content that you'd find helpful here on LinkedIn? Always looking to post useful stuff," something like that. Or it could be something along the lines of like, finding your commonality with them, or why you're connecting, and then being like, "Not sure if this resonates, but I have some free resources about blank. If you're, and then more of a question of like, or more of a question like, are you looking to blank? Might have some free resources if so." So something like that, where it's a little more like, I am being direct that I have free stuff and I have a podcast and I have all these things, but I'm not sending you a link.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need to sign up. I'm not taking it personally if you say, no, I'm not looking to do that or whatever. And I'm also not assuming you're doing that. And the other thing is I'm not asking an offensive question. So I wouldn't ask something like, hey, are you looking to lose weight?
Yeah.
Like I might have some free weight, so you need to be careful about what kind of question you pick, but you really are there to be useful and you're also there to learn about them. So taking an approach where you're asking an intentional question that will allow you to do one of those two things, I think will be important.
Yeah, I like that. It's more open ended. It leaves room for more conversation rather than just a yes or no answer. And I think permission based or just the main thing in these where you're copy and paste in the first always right people. This now just don't bother because life's too short. But the open-ended thing is really, really cool. Once you've started a conversation in sort of DMs, be that on LinkedIn or elsewhere, something a lot of people struggle with is moving that into a phone call or a video meeting or an in-person. I know there's not tips and tricks for everybody, but how have you found some success moving people towards a proper meeting?
Yeah. So, a couple things. One is if you can tie your freebie into the call. So if you're like, if let's say your freebie, for me, it's a content roadmap. That's one of my freebies. I have like a lot of freebies, but one of them is a content roadmap and it talks about what kind of content to be posting. So if I said, hey, how did the content roadmap for you go? Maybe this is in my email funnel or something, or it's on the guide after they finish it, where it's like, now, do you want feedback on one of your posts? Schedule a free consult with me. We'll talk about your post. We'll talk about your goals and we'll see if it's a fit to work together or something like that. So notice like it's kind of like the next logical step to go deeper. Or how can you understand the person better in the DM? So like if you are hearing about their goals and they have, shared that with you, you could always offer to talk deeper on that and see if you can help on a call. But the way that people ask is really important. It could be a very subtle change that leads to the call. So what most people do is they'll be like, oh, well, let me know if you want to have a call about that. And they say it like right away after like in message 2. And it's like, no question about it. It's just like, let me know if maybe you're interested. So they're either using wishy-washy language, they're not making it a question, and they're not talking about what's the benefit of the call or what's in it for the other person. They're always kind of making it about like, if you want to come on a call with me and hear about my services only, and that's like all they're making it about. So I think what we need to shift to is make it about the other person, and subtle changes in your language rather than just saying, let me know if you're interested in a call, saying, would you be open to connecting next week for a call? And it's a yes or no. And you have to be okay with a no, but at least that way it's a question and you're like making it clear as opposed to just being like, do you maybe want to connect sometime? So that's one small change I would suggest.
And that's a massive tangible change. This is what people need is they need those really applicable little tips like that. Don't leave a call to action question so open-ended at the beginning of a conversation for sure, but when you're looking for an answer, that's amazing. One thing I've learned that works quite well in terms of just getting responses from people is like you said, give them a few different options to answer that question, such as when we are a few emails into email sequences, we'll often ask people, hey, we chat to people all the time, and generally they're in one of three camps, X, Y, or Z. I'd love to know which one you are so I can send you some more stuff that will help. And we get responses to these emails, and people are like, oh my God, that's me. And then finds out of that third email, so I think having a multiple choice answer rather than wishy-washy, leaving things open, like you said, is really, really cool. And then I guess, because we're talking about the action step of your FAST acronym now. And I know that you love, love sales. You've spoken about sales so far. Once you've organized that first call, what's your sort of, method that you like to use when you've moved someone from, let's say, a LinkedIn conversation, they've agreed to come and have a chat with you about their content on a no obligations call to you. Where do you go from there, and what have you found to be the best process for bringing on a client who's relatively cold at this point?
Yeah. So I usually, there's two different routes you could go with this. And one is if this is a very, very cold lead and you guys haven't talked, they haven't expressed interest or anything like that yet in your program or anything, you want to maybe make this one an intro call where it's like hearing what their goals are, maybe giving them a takeaway, asking some questions like, are you looking for help with this? Is this something, what have you tried so far? What's been your history? And then seeing if do you want to have a conversation? How soon are you looking to like get support with these kinds of things so that you understand them better? And then if they are interested, you can actually have a real discovery call. But if they're not at that stage yet and they like just found out about you yesterday and they're not even looking for a coach or a service, then it's like you might send them off with a freebie and check in with them later, but they probably weren't. You don't want to do like a bait and switch type of thing where it's like somebody random books a call with you because you promoted a free something and then it turns into like this really serious sales call. Now, if you guys have talked in the DMs and you were talking about, yes, we can talk about some free tips about blank and we could talk about how we can work together, then I think it's okay to do an actual structured discovery call where you frame the call in the beginning as, on this call, we'll talk about, your goals, what you're struggling with. I'll give you that, some feedback on your post or whatever. Let's say that you had a call to action or something on social media that somebody was the reason why they book a call. If not, you can just skip that part and then be like, and if it makes sense, we could talk about how we can work together. Does that work? And the reason why we set this, that is like so important to set the stage for the call and ask, does that sound good? Because you're going to know where their head's at coming in. And if you weren't clear about it in the message, or if you were clear about it, if you guys are on the same page. But what a lot of people do is they just dive into the questions and then the person like thinks they're on the phone for a free coaching session. And then it turns into a free coaching session. And then it's like, whoa, where did the time go? Like this was so all over the place. So I think it's super important to give a roadmap. But just like you're an exercise instructor at a gym, you would give like the class like, hey, here's how this workout format works. We do like 3 Tabata sprints and then we do a recovery. I'm going to cue you through it. I'm going to ask you some like you would say on your call, like I'm going to ask you some questions. But like that's kind of what we want to do to make sure our discovery calls go smoothly and that the expectations are clear.
Well, again, 80% of the sale happens before you ask for it at the end of the call. It's mostly in the pre-frames, in the warming, in there's pre-agreements, and I love that. It's funny that you mentioned the workout thing because this is how I describe a lot of my clients paid book ads, and I help people to book colder sort of 15-minute intro because the book is 60-minute call. And so kind of use the personal trainer, what's the metaphor, I suppose, where you give someone a free resource, such as what was the name of your LinkedIn
the
template
profitable partnerships and leads script.
Partnerships and lead script. So say that was the free resource. Our initial call would become, hey, Hailey, I saw you downloaded this one. I'd love to be able to take you through in a 15-minute call how you can apply this script to your niche, your demographic, and get the most results out of it. In the way that a personal trainer could say, hey, here's a free workout, by the way. I would love to take you through it the first time you do it so you get the best results. You know how to use the machines. We'll customize it to your goals and your injuries, etc. And the chance of that person working with you, signing up for a second personal training session after that first one for free, astronomically higher. So I love that you said that. And that's kind of how we run the first session. And then the tips you gave on pre-framing the reasons for the secondary call, hugely, hugely important. I think anyone would be very lucky to be in your pipeline right now, Hailey. You sound like you provide a tremendous amount of value, and it doesn't feel like there's going to be any pushy selling because that's definitely not the vibe you give off. I think people are very lucky to work with you. What sort of people, I haven't really asked this, what sort of people do you work with primarily?
Yeah, so I work with health, life, and mindset coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, a lot of my clients are like IIN health coaches or just came from a certification of some kind. And now they're like, okay, now I'm all of a sudden a business owner. What do I do?
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of times they come to me either being very new or they're having a lot of inconsistency. So they're, you know, 1 month they have a couple clients or a couple clients trickled in right when they finished their certification and announced it, and then it kind of goes slow after that. So they're looking to have some systems in place. And the other type of client I attract is a lot of times people who want to overcome some of the time and like marketing and sales barriers that they know are keeping them from growth. So sometimes they'll be like very easily into the shiny object syndrome and they want to work on that, or they overthink every step and have a little bit of perfectionism sometimes and they want to work on that. So it depends, but overall it's coaches who want to be getting clients, they want to be getting visibility opportunities, and they really want to learn the sales and marketing principles so that they can have an actual business with their coaching.
Amazing. Yeah, mate. Well, there's plenty of people out there. It is a very quickly growing industry and a lot of ways for people to get into the business, say not enough ways for them to then learn how to make it successful. There's a lot of gaps still in that journey for a lot of people, and it sounds like you're filling those gaps. Where's the best place for people to start looking at your content besides the free resource we'll give them with this podcast?
Yeah, definitely. So I would love to hear from everybody on Instagram. Feel free to share just where you're at in your business, any type of content you want to see it, because I do a podcast every week. So I'm at Hailey_Rowe, ROWE. And my name, Hailey, is with an I, Hailey. And then I have the Health Coach Nation podcast and Facebook group. So you're welcome to join that. I'm at HaileyRowe.com. And the freebies we'll put in the notes, but that's the main ways.
Coach Nation podcast, how many up to now?
Oh man, I don't know, but it started in like 2018, I think. So
Wow.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Wow. And then in the top 6 in the country in that space. Is that what you said? That's what I said.
No, so it's the top 6 for health coaches. So it was named by, I can't remember which publication, but I think there was a publication of some kind. And I'm also on Listener. If you go to listenersnotes.com, we're pretty high in that ranking as far as like popularity. It's like a ranker site. So not top 6 in the world, I wouldn't say, but top 6 according to the publication, which I gotta remember which one it was, but I've been featured in a couple different ones.
Right. There's a podcast I like coaching businesses. Anyone can start one, and not everyone does it right. So I'm still learning every step of the way. But having people like yourself on is hugely helpful, and I cannot thank you enough for giving us your value and your beautiful energy today, Hailey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun. So Hailey Rowe, we're gonna share all your notes in the lists and the emails and everything you get around this podcast. So for everyone who's currently listening, whether it be live or on the recording, I love you so much for doing that. Thank you very much. I'll be back next week. Another incredible guest on Coaches to the Moon. Until then, thank you so much for listening, and peace out.